Thank you. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The future in the 21st century is not built as of 2020. Actually, the future in cosmological terms does not exist because only the present exists. And the present is built with action and purpose. It is only my second visit to Bahrain, and in just 2 years, I am fascinated by the incredible transformation that fintech and banking is taking place right here. And I know that the business and the financial industry here is literally building the future the way it must be built, with action and purpose, because that is how you really create innovation. Our society used to measure progress by accounting by the number of innovations created in a given century. Just to put some perspective as to the transformational forces that are acting on our civilization right now, in the first 14 years of the 21st century, we already surpassed the number of innovations that took us 100 years to create previously. And the reason is because our tools to create progress are no longer the mason stones or the manufacturing or the birth of electricity. It's actually technology and digitalization, which are exponential tools. Science, which used to be conceived as our attempt to understand reality and the world around us, has now been power jammed into a digital ultra proto-reality. Is the alchemy time. At Deep Science Ventures, I have the pleasure of working with young scientists that are using machine intelligence to completely transform reality. We simulate and build new molecular compounds. We create biomaterials that act like industrial glues. Right now, the current project I'm supervising is about building battery energy storage without using lithium or cobalt and burn out of a simulation program. So, if mankind has achieved to create what did not exist before, machine intelligence is a natural evolution of our scientific endeavors. And I call it machine intelligence because it truly is the birth of what we've been doing for many years, teaching machines to achieve tasks. It's not artificial. It doesn't come from an external entity. It comes from our own innovation processes because humans were never meant to carry out computational calculations in our brains. Machine intelligence is part of progress and very connected to what we are each day building and discovering to be of benefit to society. But the future commodity is cognition, not intelligence. And cognition is what you achieved when data shows you unknown unknowns, realities that we didn't even suspect they existed. This is why machines are very, very useful, because we continue to seek understanding of how we can turn things better, do innovative progress, the way that it benefits mankind. And what powers AI is not just humans building machines, it's actually data. Why AI is relevant today, much more than any time before, is because we finally have petaflops and terabytes of data. Everything has been digitalized. Everything has been turned into bytes. As an AI scientist, I can analyze numbers, I can analyze words, I can teach a machine to recognize cancer markers in photography. I can even analyze photographic evidence. It is an oceania of data, not just big. And imagine the amount of data that we will have to analyze when all the IoT machines begin to send data back to the servers, and the cars, and the data that we will gather in cities. It will be a huge cosmos of data to start analyzing. And computational power. This is Tianhe 3. It is an exascale machine coming in 2020. An exascale machine is able to perform 1 billion calculations of data per second. And you may ask yourself, why do we need machines like that? Why do we need machines like that? Well, many industries, not just the space industry, but many industries like oil and gas, automotive, they use high-performance computing, massively powerful machines to create simulations, to visualize data in ways that the human brain is not able to visualize, because human brains can only visualize in 3D maximum, but not in 4- and 5th-dimensional structures. This is why we need machines. So our ability to teach machines is not a 21st century industry. We've been teaching machines for a very, very long time. And in fact, in banking, where I used to be a young analyst back in the 90s, the birth of statistics is the birth of AI. Our ability to ask large, vast amounts of numbers to tell us what is happening. Scenario planning is an industry that was born out of the military in the 50s and then moved into government and the commercial sector in the 70s. This is what oil companies use. The best scenario planners are in oil companies. But something happened in the 90s. This is when I built my first AI system. Something called, people who bought that book also bought that book. Remember Amazon? That was the algorithm that Amazon was using, collaboratively filtering. It's the birth of personalization. When I built my first system, we didn't even call it AI. When we raised money for the startup, we used to define what the system was doing. It is a neural network, object-oriented database that personalizes. We never considered ourselves AI scientists. But what happens when we teach machines to be autonomous? Like the software that runs in airports, telling the aircrafts in which gateway they need to latch upon landing. That is 100% run by a software system. It's a narrow intelligence system. And the beauty of these systems, which exist around the world, is that they act on their own without any human supervision, but they just do just that. Where we are entering now is, can we let a machine assume realities and begin to create deterministic thinking, telling us about what's good or what is bad for us, determinism. That means that whomever has programmed that system is teaching the machine their own versions of good and bad, their own versions of good quality, bad quality. And although this sounds like a very negative future in case things go wrong, it is also an opportunity. Because if a bank wants to create a system that learns from its users and begins to suggest actions and services to them, it is up to the bank to do it for the benefit of its customers without any secondary plan. This is how you translate your brand and you put the trust back into the customer. So when machines deliver computational force brute, is exactly where we want them to be. Our brains were never meant to calculate that, which explains why Garry Kasparov lost. Actually, Garry Kasparov won the previous year. He won the first 3 matches tied up the second two, and then only lost one game. And when you talk to Gary, like I did last year in March, he says, I lost because I made a mistake and then the machine took over, which is how we used to teach machines. Machines like AlphaGo were taught to learn from the masters, how the masters play, the best moves. But then something happened at Google. They decided to delete all the knowledge, and because AlphaGo was built on a neural network, like a real artificial human brain, they gave AlphaGo the book of rules and asked AlphaGo to teach itself from tabula rasa. And then AlphaGo 0 won 100 games to 0. Why is that? Because when the outcomes are binary, win, lose, black, white, is pure computational force. You want a machine to do that. You want a machine to do that. And how do you program these machines? They're not programmed with lines of code. Because remember, we're building a brain. Just like we have neurons in our neocortex, we're building nodes in the system. We actually program them with reward functions. And what is that? Well, that's a reward function. That is the function you use to tell the machine when to stop doing something, when it has achieved to the best outcome. Now, what happens in deep learning? That sometimes deep learning goes wrong, like Facebook chatbots that invented a new language to bargain with each other. Why did they do that? Because they had a reward function for exploring things. It's called an exploration function. And they decided to invent a new language. There's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is, because it is an architecture of neural nodes, you have to control delete the entire program because you don't know where to intervene. This is why Alzheimer's cannot be surgically removed. So we are entering a renaissance era for humanity. No longer computational IQ. It's about emotional intelligence. And what is that intelligence? It's the intelligence that humans possess. This is the future of man-machine collaborations. And where are we still delivering value? In the tacit knowledge. When a senior person in a bank goes to meet a client to talk about services, it is not just his 20 years of experience or his 30 years of experience. It is his word. It is his relationship with this client. These will never be delivered by the machines. The human capital working in the financial industry is still very much the people and their tacit knowledge. And it's tacit because it's knowledge accumulated over years of doing something to the best of our abilities. This is the knowledge that athletes have when they win medals and they win matches in tennis. This is where we want the machines to be because they're better than us. But this is where our people will be because this is what humans are great at. So, what did the hedge funds stop black box trading in some of the black box trading firms in Wall Street? Because AI is not just about training algorithms. It's about data transparency, meaning the data that you feed the algorithm has to be true. If the data is not true, the algorithm doesn't know it. And you encounter something called overfitting, meaning the insights and the intelligence that comes at the other end is no longer useful and is actually not true. So, when you build AI teams, when you build teams that are going to create AI, it's all about data veracity. Your people, the best tool that any company can build is how can we normalize our data? How can we assure that what we know about our customers is truthful? Because then the AI will deliver incredible value. If the data cannot be proved, the data will guide the algorithm the wrong way. Humans are behind proving that and choosing data sets. Humans are at the core of what the machines later on create. And the future is not about machines running society. Cities will be redesigned because self-driven cars will no longer need traffic lights. Banks know exactly where everybody's going, what you are buying, how you are expending your life. Why wouldn't banks contribute to the knowledge about human life in an urban center? Smart cities with 50 million people as of 2050 will need oxygen. This is how Japan is planning the 3 of the top cities, building oxygen facilities. The future is about solving problems with creative approaches. And this is one of the biggest ones. Mental health. In space, right now, both NASA and ESA are beginning to understand that if you send humans into space for 6 to 9 months, you need to care for their mental health. Mental health, another problem of the future that needs creativity. And of course, when we invented the wheel, we thought it was the greatest invention ever. Look at all the iterations. But the 21st century has a huge power of demolishing the past. This is the wheel of the 21st century. It's square and it's sinuous. And why? Because actually, this is how fish and sharks move, and snakes, to really fight the terrain. The wheel in the 21st century is square. This is the power of the transformative forces of the 21st century. And not only that, AI, a hugely technological advance, is bringing ethics back to the table. Just like labor changed and the laws began to understand that you cannot employ children in a manufacturing plant and that people need to work just 7 or 8 hours, not 23, AI will bring regulation on how people are serviced using AI, the famous battle against algorithmic discrimination. How do I know that the profile that I have is correct about my life and that I'm not being discriminated against? One of the areas that I work with regulators in the EU is about not just the right to own the data of a given citizen, but that the profile that is being created of this person is truthful and it doesn't discriminate against them. So the future of AI in any sector is about abandoning the business models of the past. The space industry is no longer a cold war of political domination. It's a space of collaboration and commerce. And humans should at all times be at the center of anything that we create using artificial and machine intelligence. And the reason is because the way human life it is rich, is abstract, is unpredictable, and even if we teach machines to try to be like us, they will never be like us. Thank you very much.
Great.